All right, glad to have you back now. From petrol prices to mortgage rates, U.S.-Israel war and with Iran has already had an impact on people's finances, even in the UK. How deep and sustained that turns out depends on the duration of the conflict and how quickly supply lines and economies can recover. Drivers may have already noticed the prices at the pump are on the rise. United States-Israel war in the Middle East, thousands of kilometers also from Nigeria, is having ripple effects on the living conditions of Nigerians. It directly worsens economic hardship, security challenges, and cost of living, making life tougher for ordinary Nigerians. Now, almost 3 weeks into the war, the pump price of petrol products has skyrocketed nearly 100%, leading to higher transportation costs, food prices, prices of other essential goods. For Nigerians who have been reeling under the, of course, the reforms of the present administration, economic reforms, this burden, according to them, is excruciating. Well, my next guest is Dr. Chijioke Ekechukwu. He is a renowned economist and vice president of the Abuja Chamber of Commerce and Industry. He joins me today from the United States of America. Thank you so much, Dr. Ekechukwu. It's good to have you on the show.
Thank you very much, Tolu. It's also good to have you.
All right, then. Well, let's start with the impact of this on everyday Nigerians. You would agree with me. Price at the pumps, of course, it works with everything. Price of food stuff and all of that. What do you make of it, considering where we put inflation the month of February?
We were actually having some progress in bringing down the inflation of the country. Food inflation was single figure, and other inflation rates were going down until this crisis escalated. We expected that this escalation would lead to the kind of situation we're seeing today, where prices of petroleum products have risen up so much. All over the world. In America here, it has increased by over 25%, and the Americans are just struggling and complaining every day about the escalation of the petroleum pricing. And of course, down home in Nigeria, it's also so. We have seen almost 100% increase, and it's already affecting prices of goods and services, and everybody's complaining. So, economically speaking, it's working against us, just to say the least, because everybody is struggling right now to earn a living and to actually have disposable income.
Just like you said, considering the fact that we're coming out of a major reforms, many would say maybe there are quick wins for government despite all of these challenges. Do you think there are any wins, or what are the opportunities for them to at least address the challenges of the most vulnerable ones?
Yes, a lot of things have been said before, but I just said the good thing is the fact that we are petroleum exporters and we produce crude oil. And so what I advocate is that for government to, I don't believe in this bus system where you have to do CNG buses all over the place. But, I don't believe in it because there are a million people, millions of people who have their vehicles, who must use their vehicles, who will not use the buses. There are villages, many villages in the country that the buses will not get to. So the situation should be such that everybody anywhere in the world, in the country, should be able to benefit from the same kind of largesse federal government can give. So the good thing is that we're a petroleum producing country, and we should be able to have some kind of supply system that will not be vulnerable to the international crude oil price. So we supply at a very controlled price to the refineries, and of course we have a major refinery that can actually supply everything we need in the country and even externally. So what we need to do is just to give them at a controlled price, and then they will also sell to Nigerians at a controlled price. That way every Nigerian will benefit from it. The bus system, using the buses will not work because it's never worked before. In the past, Many governments of the past tried to use the bus system, but it never worked. Because even if it works in townships, what about the rural areas and things like that? So that is why we have to do something about the petroleum pricing, using the local refineries that we have, using our own crude oil. That's the only thing we think we can do right now. I don't think we should be thinking about increasing salaries of workers, just like the labor union was talking about. That is not it at all. We have to see how we can create a considerable pricing for petroleum product locally in order for every Nigerian to benefit from it.
At the last MPC meeting, we saw a reduction in rates, and analysts like you and others have commended the central bank. But if we continue with this trend, the impact of energy prices, of course, you know what's happening with electricity. Now on the other side is for PMS, diesel, gasoline, and all of that. What do you think would shape the next meeting for the MPC?
That is why in economics we keep saying all things being equal. At the last MPC meeting, we already said we expect that subsequent meetings will have the MPR reduced, considering the fact that we had a downward flow of inflation rate. But today, the circumstances that are not within our control or the control of CBN have happened, and that is what has happened to petroleum products. Prices of goods and services are rising up. Aviation fuel is also affected in this. So airlines, airports, and every service rendered in that area will also rise. And so you are going to be seeing prices of goods and services rising. What does that mean to us? Inflation rate is going to start ticking up again, and that may actually affect the next MPR in the next MPC meeting. And so if that happens, the best that can happen is a hold to watch, to know the extent that the war will continue. Because in the next MPC is around May this year. And so if this continues like this, I expect that the worst or the best the MPC can do is just to say a hold. Otherwise, we are going to be seeing an increase in the MPR, which is not too good for the economy, which is not what we've been wishing for this economy.
Because that looked like a very good step when we saw that reduction from the Monetary Policy Committee at the last meeting. Now, let's talk about food prices now, because that is very important to everyone. Everyone wants food on the table, and we're also seeing a bit of reduction coming at that space. It's just like it's all interwoven. Transportation, moving the food from the rural to the urban areas, and all of this would impact definitely on the pricing. Now, are there also ways we could address that issue of storage, movement, and all of that of agricultural products that could, help make it get quicker to people and maybe a lot cheaper?
Yeah, if we had a railway system all over the country, it would have been cheaper for people, farmers, to take their products through the railway system to destinations they would want the products to go to. But that we do not have. We only have a limited railway system in the country. Secondly, there is no other way the government can actually move those items from the villages or from the farms to the township areas where they are needed. Again, if we had the commodity boards that we used to have in those days, government would have remained or been the off-taker for the farmers. In other words, they would just pay the farmers enough and then sell to the public on any pricing they want to sell. That would have also helped. We neither have a good railway system nor a produce board that we used to have in those days. So what is going to happen is that prices of this agricultural produce will rise because the farmers are going to pay so much. So what it means also is that if they don't want to move those items to the townships, they will remain in the villages, and some of them will rot away and they will incur losses. So those are the things that actually affect food prices. We achieved a very good inflation food price rate the last time, where the food inflation was as low as 8.89%. Now it's gone back to double digits again. So these are some of the issues we're going to be having with the petroleum pricing going this way. So I don't see anything that is a quick win that we can do right now, apart from the kind of making sure that petroleum prices remain almost, even if there's going to be an increase, just going to be a marginal increase. But otherwise, we're going to have the impact and effects of all this in the prices of food and other related items.
Does this threaten the positives already seen in the reforms of President Bola Tinubu in any form? Does it threaten it?
Obviously, they have started threatening already because it was easy for us as of last month to say inflation rate has reduced, oil prices have reduced, exchange rate is stable. But of course, you know that for exchange rate, it is going to be a good one for the country, because the country is going to be generating enough revenue from the higher prices of petroleum products. But that is just for the government. And so the only impact it's going to have is that exchange rates may not be threatened. Exchange rates may be stable or even improve, because we're going to be having more money in our foreign reserves and, of course, more money in our treasury. So we expect that exchange rate will not be threatened at this case. But otherwise, other indicators, macroeconomic indicators, may suffer because of this extra control from outside the country. You know, sometimes it is either you are able to control what you can control or things you cannot control, and we already envisaged that. That is why we say that CBN is a conservative institution, because they have to be conservative, because anything can happen that is not within their control. This is just one of them that's happening now.
Finally, before I let you go, in your capacity, of course, as the Vice President of the Abuja Chamber of Commerce and Industry, we've had a series of reports with regards to electricity supply and how it's affecting businesses. Can you talk to us also about that and how that also threatens development moving forward?
Well, electricity in the country has just tried to look like a monster that looks like nobody has solution for, because the kind of failures we get every day and every week and every month. You also see that the current government tried to make efforts to resolve these electricity and energy problems, but we're not getting any headway. We have said for many years that any day our country, Nigeria, gets it right with the electricity supply, that is when our own industrial revolution will start. Because I can tell you, many Nigerians are willing and ready to go into manufacturing sector, but that is not possible with the kind of electricity supply we have today and the cost therefrom. So, and then the alternative to electricity is the diesel and the generators, which also have very high costs. So until we get our electricity system better, we cannot be talking about the revolution we want in industries.
I must thank you so much, Dr. Chijioke Ekechukwu, the renowned economist, Vice President of the Abuja Chamber of Commerce. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Tolu. Thank you.